Now, you guys will remember that a little while ago, a few days ago probably, we talked about how Disney Plus Canada put out on social media that the Netflix Marvel shows, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Punisher, that they were all coming to Disney Plus Canada, but there was no word about whether or not they would come to Disney Plus in the US. We speculated that maybe they go on to Disney Plus here and they create an adult section. Maybe what I thought they were going to do was put them onto Hulu, since that seems to be their more adult arm here. Well, this morning, as I was getting ready to do the show today, this morning I got an email from Disney, from their PR department, and it basically read, let me bring it up here full screen here for you guys. Disney sent this to me this morning and said, Marvel, by the way, we're going to talk about their use of words here in a second. Marvel live action series and updated parental controls in the US coming to Disney Plus on March 16th. Fan favorite titles including Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. I don't know why they're saying fan favorites and Iron Fist in the same sentence, but Iron Fist, The Defenders, The Punisher, and Marvel's Agents of Vomit, S.H.I.E.L.D., giving fans access to more from the Marvel collection all in one place. Basically, it's this. On March 16th, the basic gist is all these Marvel shows are coming to Disney Plus in the US, but you also got to set up parental controls because these are TVMA, which is basically rated R or worse in movie comparisons. And so Disney's saying, yep, we're going to move them on, but we're going to have you guys set up some parental controls. Let me move over here. Because over at Screen Rant, they got comments from one of the executives at Disney Plus. Says Disney Plus has served as the home for some of the most beloved brands in the industry, and the addition of these live action shows brings more from the Marvel brand together, all in one place. As we continue to build greater value for consumers seeking high quality movies and series, we're at the same time being responsive to those changes on the platform. We have experienced great success with this on Disney Plus across our global markets, talking about parental controls and blocked areas across our global markets, and we'll continue that here in the U.S. as we will by offering our consumers not only great content, but also a set of features that help to ensure viewing experiences most suitable for them and their families. So I know a lot of people were speculating and had the thought that at some point, sooner or later, Disney in the US is going to start setting up age walls. And Rob, you were one of them. You've been saying the whole time that you really think in the US they were going to set that up. I never would have thought that until Big Papa Iger left, because we talked about that. So, well, Big Papa Iger's not here anymore. Who knows what, because Iger never would have allowed that. I don't think Iger would have ever allowed that. But he's not there anymore. It's Bob Chapek now, and they seem to be opening it up. I want to point out two interesting things to me here. The first interesting thing is, well, here it is. The Marvel Netflix shows are coming over to Disney Plus in the US. So there's that. And probably and they list a bunch of countries it's rolling out in. I expect by the end of the year, it's going to be on all Disney Plus things everywhere. The other interesting thing to me, though, is this. When I brought up my personal emails about notifications from Disney's PR from the PR branch at Disney about like Moon Knight and whatever, they always talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The MCU expands again. I just want to point out something we all already know. The language that they use in these things is very specific. They never mention Marvel Cinematic Universe. They always just say Marvel property and Marvel live action series, not Marvel Cinematic Universe live action series, and through all the email and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, even when you go over to that comment from the Disney Plus executive, they never mention the MCU. They just always talk about Marvel property. So, because I know I already saw on Twitter today some people discussing that, well, this means that these shows are all part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And while these communiques from Disney do not explicitly say those shows are not, I do find it telling that the language is very different than the language they set out with Moon Knight, with the She-Hulk notification, with all that kind of stuff. So I just thought that was kind of telling as well. Anyway, Rob, here we go. We got these shows. They are coming to not Hulu, but they're coming to Disney Plus here, and Disney's going to set up these age restrictions as well. Some people think maybe a little bit long time coming. What do you think about it? What stands out to you in this?
Well, I think you just said that I anticipated them doing this only because I think they kind of had to at some point.
Right.
Because they want, ultimately, I think, and we've talked about this, that Hulu will be absorbed because Hulu is not worldwide and Disney Plus is. So eventually they want everyone to subscribe to Disney Plus. So I think it's the smart move. What I'm more interested in, John, is will they debut shows now that are quote unquote TVMA that debut behind a paywall? So I was thinking, Kevin Feige, John, we are now on Moon Knight countdown. We're 29 days from
Yes,
Moon
we are.
Knight. 29 days from game day and 29 days, my game day. My
game day.
Yeah, my game day.
Mine.
It is mine. I've wanted this for a long time.
You have.
For a long time. But I'm curious because, Kevin Feige has said that Moon Knight is going to be brutal. They're not. So would they debut is there a possibility they could do Marvel or a Star Wars show and debut it behind a paywall on Disney Plus?
You
Would
mean
they do that?
control, like a
parental control. Yeah. Pardon me. It is already behind a paywall. But yes, a parental control. That's what I mean. Would they do that? So they could actually make from the get a more mature content like how Daredevil was, will we see that happen? And I think eventually we will. I think Marvel and Star Wars will make shows that might debut behind that parental control wall.
So you're suggesting that not only are they now setting up a parental control wall so they can bring over this content, you think this may usher in a thing where Star Wars, Marvel starts making adult TVMA content to debut behind those parental control walls?
Absolutely.
I don't know. What do you think they will?
Yeah. Eventually.
So you think they'll go more adult? You think we're going to see, Starbone? We're going to see sex in Star Wars?
I don't know about that necessarily, but the thing is, it is after all Star Wars, and I mean, the way they're going with it, it's just a happy time here in the old galaxy far, far away. I mean, we're talking about a global, on Tatooine, a planetary conflict. The galaxy is at war. War is ugly. War is not something, as we know from what's going on in the world today. And I think that I could see something like a Cassian Andor series, the next iteration of whatever that is, would be more like Platoon or Saving Private Ryan in the Star Wars universe.
But it's interesting, though, because Marvel has had a venue where they could make R-rated content if they want, the movie theaters. If they wanted, they could any time. They have no paywall, no parental control while necessary. But Kevin Feige, we talked about on the show, Kevin Feige came out and said, no, Blade is not going to be rated R. We're not going to do R-rated material. Deadpool's an exception. He said, Deadpool's going to be its own kind of thing. So that's a bit of an exception, but we see no need to do R-rated material. Do you think that maybe their position on that has changed?
Not necessarily. I mean, I don't necessarily, but eventually, how do you make a PG? I know more. Isn't Morbius PG-13?
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, you're going to have to come to grips with the fact, you're dealing with supernatural beings that are killing people indiscriminately. Now, does it come to the point where when do you actually say, you're pulling back because your audience is going to demand, they can get R-rated vampire movies in other places. Eventually, they're going to want to see, how do you make a vampire movie without red blood?
We're going to find out.
I know. And I think eventually we'll see, they might do, as a special for viewers, they might do R-rated versions they put behind the paywall, but the theatrical versions are PG-13.
Really?
Or something along those lines.
You think they'll get into that whole thing of there's going to be multiple versions of our movies?
I think possibly they will, because remember...
But what does that accomplish?
Subscribers.
Does it?
I don't know. I mean, but I think...
But you think if somebody's not interested in Blade or being a Disney Plus subscriber, that, they're going to show blood. Okay, I'll subscribe to Disney Plus?
Well, I think that, yeah. I mean, if you could only see certain versions of a movie, they might. They're going to do whatever they can to drive more subscribers. I mean, the streaming wars, we're in the early stages of that. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
All right. Chris, you're hearing, this. They're announced they are definitely bringing it over. We knew they were bringing it over, but whether they would put it into their Hulu branch, their Disney Plus branch, it's going on Disney Plus. They're setting up these parental controls. What stands out to you about this, and what, if anything, do you think this tells us about the future of their content?
I mean, I'm going to be very cynical here people are going to watch what they watch anyway. Netflix has their parental control where it's just like, here's the kids version.
Yeah.
And then you just don't log into it. So it just seems like something they're doing for the sake of doing it, frankly. Maybe there's going to be a passcode system. Maybe it's going to be a little more highfalutin than that. But
I think they said that you're going to need to set up like a passcode or something like that.
And so it seems like it's well-intentioned, but it seems like something that I don't think is that important ultimately, honestly. I don't think it's going to change their content too much. There could be a push to do things that are more like, what we see on HBO Max. They're kind of DC properties, right? And do something like that to compete with a Peacemaker, to compete with Doom Patrol. But for the most part, I think they're going to stay the course with their PG-13 realm, personally.
Well, that could be true, but they've also got other franchises, the Alien franchise.
Yeah.
Now they can put the Alien
now we're
movies.
going outside of MCU and Star Wars.
But it's still
and
Disney.
I think you're dead right about that.
Yeah, and then you've got Noah Hawley's Alien TV series.
That's
going
an
to,
excellent
and
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
So I think that they're going to want to do the Die Hard movies. Those are R-rated, and although Die Hard with a Vengeance there's two versions of it. I mean, that I could see that happening too. There's two versions of Die Hard with a Vengeance. There's the yippee-ki-yay mother effer one where he says it, and then there's the one where he doesn't. So,
but so if we move outside of the realm of Marvel and Star Wars, I completely agree with you. I think that definitely does open the doors for that a lot.
I think one day there's going to be a creator, probably a big creator, that wants to do a much grittier, harder hitting Star Wars show where they really delve into the costs of war. Like, I would love to see Apocalypse Now in the Star Wars universe. Something like that, an adaptation of Hearts of Darkness or something, so where they can actually take the Star Wars universe and take it into an adult direction that we haven't seen before, and maybe do it specifically for Disney Plus.
But does that then hurt your brand? Does that then turn families off your brand? I'm not saying it does. I'm just throwing the question out there. Because these are the questions that Disney has wrestled with over the years when it comes to their Marvel and Star Wars stuff. And I'm not saying I have an answer to that. I don't. I'm just putting the question out there.
It couldn't hurt your brand worse than Rise of Skywalker.
Well, I mean, that's true, too.
I mean,
bad stuff hurts you worse.
And I think if you open it up to creators who have more leeway to do some interesting things with the property, I think the problem is all of these things are creator driven, like TV shows. We look at what Vince Gilligan did with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. We need that kind of creativity for a Star Wars show.
But do we? Because we do. Playing devil's advocate here. Really? Show me the need. Because every time they put out a new Star Wars show, it becomes the number one thing in the world. Whenever they put out a Star Wars movie, it makes over $1 billion. Whenever Marvel puts out a movie, it makes over $1 billion. Whenever Marvel puts out a Disney Plus show, it becomes the number one highest rated thing they've ever done. So when you say they need to do that, just playing devil's advocate, show me the need, because they seem to be winning on all fronts, doing things the way they do. And I don't know that I see a deficit here that they need to make up for.
I think, though, that if you want to have this IP stay vibrant, and they do, for another 10 years, you're going to have to address, or the idea that you want creators who are going to make innovative stuff with your IP to be attracted to working with you to create something new that attracts audiences. But do they seem like
they're having trouble attracting anybody right now?
Well, I think right now
I think there's a bunch of truth in what you're saying. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
But I do think that we haven't seen the repercussions of less good franchise property. We need to see, instead of more, like with Star Trek, we have a lot more, but is it better? And I think ultimately the long-term effects of that, we'll see. Will people still love Star Trek in 5 years? Same thing with Star Wars. What's the longevity?
All right, guys. Well, the question is for you. What do you think about this? They have officially said they're moving the not MCU content, but the Marvel branded stuff over from Netflix into Disney Plus, and they're going to set up the parental controls. What do you think about that move? And what, if anything, do you think that might tell us about the future content that we may be able to expect on something like Disney Plus? Could we see some R-rated content, original content being made outside of the MCU and Star Wars, inside of the MCU and Star Wars? Hell, why not? Where's the TVMA Pixar property we want to see as well? But whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.